Philadelphians know hard work, but you don't have to do it all yourself. TaskRabbit has been helping residents in the city of brotherly love for over a decade with everything from furniture assembly to minor home repairs. Don't let that to-do list ruin your weekend. Use the TaskRabbit app to describe what you need and find a skilled tasker in your neighborhood. Also, there's transparent pricing, so you'll be able to see the hourly rate up front, which includes the tasker's rate and the service fee. So there's no surprises at checkout. Download the TaskRabbit app or visit taskrabbit.com today. In an emotional and contentious culmination of a months-long process, the Philadelphia School Board voted 6-3 last week to approve a $3 billion facilities plan that would close 17 schools and renovate 169 more. Parents, teachers, students have many questions. That's why joining me today is the president of the school board, Reginald Streater. It's Monday, May 4th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and we're talking about the biggest changes to our public school system in years. School Board President Reginald Streater, thank you so much for joining me today on CityCast Philly. You and 5 other school board members voted yes, 3 voted no to approve a nearly $3 billion 10-year facilities plan that will close 17 schools starting in 2027. The emotions are at an all-time high right now. Our city lawmakers disrupted Thursday's meeting. You called to go to recess twice and ultimately decided to take the meeting virtual. Students and teachers were crying. They were consoling one another. What message do you have for the nearly 4,000 students that this will impact?
First, thank you for having me. And I think before I begin speaking, I know who you are doesn't matter all the time to everyone, but I think if anybody understands the pain that our village is feeling right now, it's me, right? And I think one of the things that I've said at previous action meetings, city council, I think the fact that the board even has to call the question is painful for me. I think the fact that our system of public education has been brought to its knees to have to consider consolidations and reorganization of resources so that we can better provide educational opportunities for our children so that they can not only have the legacy of the building they're in, but be able to have the skills, the intellect, the intellectual capacity, the critical thinking skills to not only live their lives, but be fully functioning adults making fully functional decisions, adding value to the villages that we come from. So the fact that we have to do this, it is very disheartening to me. But what people don't understand that the Board of Education is the place where all of the issues collide, right? And we're the ones who have to decide what to do when we have realities, $300 million structural deficit, when we have issues with chronic underachievement in certain parts of the city, when we have $7 billion of deferred maintenance and replacement costs, if we were to maintain the structure of the district, but also rebuild things that ought to be rebuilt. So it's for them, I would say that I feel you. This decision wasn't taken lightly. The board has tried to do everything it can before getting to this point to advocate for additional resources. We don't raise our own revenue. We're wholly dependent upon the city, federal government, and our state.
You hinted at it in your response just now, but why was all of this so necessary? Can you explain the financial situation, the broken down school buildings, the changing population shifts that made the board come to this decision?
So what this plan is really trying to do, right? It is really trying to address the inadequate opportunities that our children have in the school district of Philadelphia. But then when we look at our resources, we're unable to provide extended pre-K access because we know that early childhood education can lead to better outcomes for our babies, right? We knew that it was cost prohibitive. We then saw that, hey, in order to get an AP course, some children have to go halfway across the city or go to certain criteria-based schools. Well, Dr. Watlington said, well, if you're going to do facilities work, you should do it in a way that supports learning, right? Children should have algebra in early grades so that they have the opportunity to not only go to college, but also to be able to qualify for some of our amazing criteria based schools. So the facilities plan is trying to solve that problem, right? So I want to put that first, right? The problem first is how do we create a district that utilizes resources that supports learning. And that goes back to the quote by a gentleman named AJ Craybill from who's affiliated with the Council for Great City Schools. When AJ Craybill and the board were discussing student achievement, is when your question zero is based upon why do you exist to educate children, everything that you do, you hope to design it in service of that. And the quote, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change, right? So thinking about a facilities plan in this way was intended to do that. Then we got the big thing you talked about, right? Then we have the structural problems, right? You have schools that are sometimes 125 years old or older. You have crumbling infrastructure. You have issues that impact learning when pipes are bursting because it's too cold. When it's too hot, we don't have air conditioning. These are the other things that the Board of Education said we can't continue to kick this can down the road because our facilities are going to get older and older and older, and our children can't wait. And then there's the funding piece.
Okay, we'll get to that funding piece in just a second. So from what I'm hearing and seeing, I don't think that our families are questioning maybe the purpose of education or public education. I think it was the rollout in which everyone was told about this plan. That's been some of the criticism.
Yes, I think you're right. I think we all do agree on how we got here. Enrollment declines, poor facilities, and underfunding. Let's just put that on the table. Um, and and yes, I hear you that how this whole thing was rolled out was was problematic. So I'll own that, right? As well. But I do believe the district did try to engage with the village early enough. And I do think that from sometimes until the issue is right in front of us, the request to engage may not be accepted until you get closer to the decision, right? I do think what really triggered the village was when Dr. Watlington came out with the schools that could be up for closure, right? I think before that, people were
And that was initially 20 schools, right?
Yes, it was about 20 schools. I think before that, people were kind of hanging back and, okay, we see they're doing a facilities plan. We see they have this project team.
And that was delayed some time, though.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So it was supposed to come out in the fall. But, Dr. Watlington wanted to get back into the kitchen and try to help co-create with our partners, city council and things like that, who have been engaged in this process for quite a while, especially the chair of education, and trying to ensure that at least the first work product is something that's responsive to what we heard through the engagement process with Accelerate Philly, which the facilities plan is an outgrowth with, but also from all the engagement we've done with city council and council hearings, at board hearings and things like that. So we don't get this big, robust plan that needs to be whittled down. If that was Dr. Watlington's best thinking based upon what he had heard in multiple forms of engagement.
Will this plan alleviate overcrowding in some classrooms?
Well, that's the goal. I think I wouldn't say overcrowding in classrooms, but I think we have a problem in northeast Philly, right?
It's bursting at the seams.
Bursting at the seams. So I do believe I know because I voted on the plan for its approval. I believe the goal is to invest in Northeast Philadelphia to add space and capacity where it's needed as well. But there's also investments in other parts of the city where some people are saying, well, why are you investing in this neighborhood when there's been such a decline as well? And there's also modernizations, which is really the key to the plan, to go from go from 85 unsatisfactory facilities to having no unsatisfactory facilities. I think that's a game changer, right? Also, there's opportunities for year-round schools and communities that need it. There's the Rod Shetty model of not Rod Shetty, the Harlem Children's Zone, which we're trying to make it our own with partners with Temple University and things like that to add a year-round opportunity for children in the inner city who need it the most. So this plan is about expansion. It's not just about closures, but we understand the closures are getting a lot of energy right now, and we would be unempathetic if we didn't own that and try to do what we can to mitigate that. I will say that we will not desert our village. I won't desert our village. I will ensure that we do what we got to do through this process.
Board President, help me to understand the funding aspect, because you did mention that the district's plan is to put $1 billion towards this and then plans to raise $2 billion from grants and through the state. Where will this money come from exactly? And how do you know you're going to get it?
Well, the hope is, that I think I won't over lawyer this too much. But there's been a strategy, right? The Board of Education in partnership with the Council of Great City Schools, and I think that's what has allowed us to kind of have the academic gains, 3 through 8 math, 12% increase in math, where people thought Black children, poor white children just aren't good at math. We are debunking that right now with limited resources. But we use the COVID dollars to not only invest in facilities where we built multiple schools during the pandemic, but also did some capital work to make the schools safer and accessible. Other schools and extensions to other schools, we also use that money for staff to support learning, because there was a belief that had the federal election gone a little differently, that COVID money might have been reoccurring. And there was a nationwide strategy. And Philadelphia is known as one of the cities that did the best, whether it's NAEP scores and things like that. So we believe that we can make the case, right? We believe that when you fund public education, when you create a facilities plans that's designed to further supplement educating children, and with the limited resources we'll be able to move the needle, we believe that we can make the case to our funders to fund us, because that's what we're supposed to do. That said, yes, this is going to require our state to have the confidence in our ability to continue to do this work and do it well, to invest in us. But we believe that we have made the case that our children are worth investing, not just because they should be, which I believe they should be, just because it's children. This is a civil right under our state constitution and a public good, but also because we've shown an ability, when we're held accountable under local control, our district can get better and our children can get better. Fund us, right?
So tell me again where the money will come from.
Yes, so I think there's examples that we've had in the past, right? I think that the relationship between, I know some people maybe don't like the universities in the city of Philadelphia, but Temple University, I think, is trying to step up to be a partner with the year-round piece. That's not going to be a cheap undertaking. I think that Penn is looking to step up in University City right now so that the School District of Philadelphia can keep a foothold in University City as it relates to potentially a future high school, where it looks like Penn might be willing to help as well. I think that's what we mean by partnerships and philanthropic support, right? Those type of opportunities, and those things are already underfoot. Knowing Dr. Watlington, I think he's weary of coming out too early with things before it's completely baked. But those things are in the works. But also the state, right? I think we have the Commonwealth Court decision around adequate funding, which goes to our operating budget. But I do think that there might be some movement with Plan Con, which is a mechanism that was put in place to help with capital investments with districts. And also, I do believe that we have a plan that's comprehensive, that's aspirational enough, but isn't so aspirational that it's like go back to the drawing board as well. So I do have confidence in our state, with our state delegation, our amazing our chair of appropriations, Jordan Harris, who's been a real stalwart in getting us more funding closer to adequacy. But we also know that there's another party in control of the state Senate, and they have to have their say as well, and we can't ignore them. And I hope that our decision to help ourselves, be strategic with our funding, show that when you invest in us, rates go up, dropouts go down, and all the things that are working, and that the facility problem is a real issue and the board isn't kicking the can down the road anymore, that they will say, okay, we hear you.
What can teachers, parents, students expect as this plan rolls out in 2027? When can they expect to see closures and upgrades? Is it just a fresh coat of paint? And what are we talking about in terms of modernization?
So as it relates to modernizations, I think obviously fresh paint, right? Plumbing and things like that. But the timelines are all published as well. Some might be some might require ADA accessibility, which is a huge upgrade. Like people don't need to mitigate that. But also some upgrades might include additional space in the facility. And again, next month, I think if people just keep an eye out on this, the board will be voting on a capital budget, which is going to inform what these upgrades look like.
When does that vote happen?
I believe May 28th May 28th. And that's why the facilities plan we had to call the question on it, because this at the last meeting, we also approved bond issuances, which means we have to go to strangers and ask them to invest in the school district so we can build new facilities and upgrade facilities for our capital needs, and we have to pay that back over time. But that time was running out, so we had to vote this year, whether up or down, and then those two votes are going to inform the capital budget, which is informed by the facilities plan.
Okay, got it. I want to go back to something that you said earlier. Some of what might have gotten lost in this conversation, not just with us, but just, as a district, says that the plan will result in all eighth graders getting algebra, more pre-K classes, more technical education programs, and more AP classes. What does closing schools, though, have to do with making these educational improvements?
I'll just give you some quick fact numbers. In the schools of Philadelphia, for schools that have less than 100 students in them, on average, generally speaking, it's about $50,000 per pupil for that school, right? As you go, and again, the district isn't trying to have schools with 5,000 students in them. Once you get around 600 to 700 students, the economies of scale allow us to marshal in the resources to service learning, right? But when you have a district where you have schools with 200, 250, 100, 80 students in it, it's hard to have the equitable distribution of resources to support student learning. So that's why the facilities that are proposed for closure, that have to go through a public process still to do that, it becomes very cost prohibitive to do that. So, some of our schools have 9 students in a grade, right? Some have 10. It's just not sustainable. So when student outcomes change, when adult behaviors change, we could continue the status quo and have chronic underachievement in the school district of Philadelphia and scrape by to get by, while honoring the legacy of facilities. And my Germantown High School closed. I'm going to Germantown High School. I get it.
Okay.
Right. I get that. And my middle school is no longer Leeds Middle School. It's Hill Freeman Academy. I understand what it means your legacy is lost. But I would rather there be another Reggie or another Trenae who grows up and has the agency to take that experience with them and live the life that they so desire. That's the tension here, right? I think there has been an agreement from other stakeholders, even some who were at the meeting, that the philosophy is sound, the reasoning is sound, but I think there's a request to make exceptions. But when you're dealing with a system of public education, an exception over here leads to an equity over here, right? And I would argue even those babies in the schools that are currently slated for decisions to be made, I believe we can provide them a better educational experience. I believe that we cannot do that how we're built. And that's the tough decisions the board has to make. And I'm a father. I have kids in the district right now, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And I'm hoping our village understands the sacrifice, not accept it, but understand that I think what we're trying to do is just.
Okay. Board President, you just said that some schools have very few students. And by closing those emptier schools, does the district save money? Am I getting that right?
I would say I think the hard part about explaining kind of the economies of scale argument is some are like, well, if you cut here, give me a dollar amount that you're saving. What we're trying to do is reallocate those resources in a way that you get a bigger bang for your buck. So the district strategy for balancing its budget wasn't the facilities plan, because the last time we did this in 2013, we did it by firing individuals, saving money that way. But when we did it that way, the children's student achievement got worse, the receiving schools got worse, and now we have a hole in the a hole in the institutional knowledge in the district. So the goal was to reallocate those resources. But with that being said, I think to your question, yes, there are a lot of schools where the enrollment is as such where it is hard to provide pre-K, it's hard to provide algebra, it's hard to provide the things that we know children ought to have as well. So, and it also puts our principals in a very tough decision, because principals control their budgets. And if their budgets are so small that they have to pick between, an assistant principal and some type of learning support that the baby's needing at school. We're trying to alleviate that now.
We've got more on this after the break. The Spring Art Star Craft Bazaar is back at Cherry Street Pier this Mother's Day weekend on Saturday, May 9th and Sunday, May 10th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The show will feature nearly 90 curated craft vendors selling a wide variety of goods. You can expect clothing, jewelry, pottery, prints, original art, and so much more. There's also make and take craft stations where everyone can learn a new craft skill and take their creation home. There's going to be plenty of food vendors and drinks for you to enjoy while you're checking out the beautiful waterfront views. Make sure you're there for the giveaway of 75 free event totes at 11 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. each day. There's also a free raffle table where guests can enter to win one of the many donated items. The event is totally free to attend and open to everyone. Learn more at artstarcraftbazaar.com. All right, I want to talk about what we saw Thursday. Most of City Council had came out to oppose this vote, and disrupted the meeting twice with shouting and chanting. Councilmember Isaiah Thomas called for board members' resignations and promised to sue over this. As of our interview right now, there's no lawsuit that's been filed. But what do you think of how City Council members were shouting at you and the board, disrupting the meeting? At one point, you sarcastically told Thomas, you're setting a great example for our children. You did say, do what you got to do. What do you say to what we saw on Thursday?
Again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. And on a personal level, right, I understand this is a tough time in our city as it relates to this topic, right? And as the president of the board, who is in the foxhole with board members, I know how hard they think about these topics as volunteers who don't make a dollar but spend ungodly hours doing, because this is the Lord's work as well. So I was a little taken back. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little taken back by the energy that we received. I think it's very important that we tone down the rhetoric. I think it's very important that we set examples for our children. I think we could be disagreeable without being disagreeable, if you know what I mean. But that being said, look, I am confident that we will get past this. I am confident that as we have our planning year, that council members will help us where appropriate to help facilitate what needs to be facilitated, because it's about the children as well. But
Council is threatening to withhold funding from the district because of your vote. They are vowing to stop Mayor Parker's plan to add that $1 tax on rideshare rides in order to close that $300 million deficit that we were talking about earlier. Are you concerned about that? Because that, and what would that mean?
Since I got on the board and I got my first briefing, I've been concerned about funding, period, right? So I'll just put that on the record. I'm also concerned for all students. I am concerned that when individuals have been on the record saying they agree with 85% of the plan and things like that, and we're not thinking about the other children, the other communities, I believe that whatever has to happen, we will be careful not to have to impact communities in such a way where it destabilizes the whole system. That said, I think I was on record saying this. I don't care if we go on our mattresses. I don't care how we get the funding. I know that we have a $300 million structural deficit that we've been talking about since I got on the board, that it was coming, and the Board of Education utilized those same COVID dollars to give us all time with the fund balance so that this conversation didn't happen 5 years ago. And I know that I have $7 billion of deferred maintenance. And I also know that this plan, which isn't perfect, has a lot of great things in it that can really transform the city. And this is a legacy moment. I think either we can continue doing the same thing, expecting a different result, or the Board of Education, which is the only party in this city by law who has the power to govern the school district of Philadelphia, but can't raise its own money. That's the balance, right? That's the accountability that we're using the money to support our mission. Has to make tough decisions, or we're kicking the can down the road and more children will graduate not able to read on grade level, do math, understand science, or have the educational holistic experience that I had at Germantown High School, being a part of choir, being a part of student government, being able to play sports, being able to have multiple extracurriculars in a facility that didn't fail me. That's what our vision is, right? And I know these city council members believe in that. I know they agree. I know they do. But for me, I think you should read my energy as I'm willing to take that heat for our children. This board is willing to take that heat for our children. And I hope people understand, well, wait a minute. Why are they so bullish about making a decision right now? I think it's because we really care and we really believe that starting this process works. And remember, we passed a resolution. This is a living document. This Board of Education is not going to put this district over a cliff if enrollment trends change, or if something happens. And the resolution states the type of things that should be considered if the board is pivoting, and Dr. Watlington can recommend pivots itself. So if we don't get funded, the plan gets weaker. If we don't get funding from the state, the plan gets weaker. If we don't get funding if we don't get additional reoccurring funds, I don't know about those AP courses that children from Olney High School was at my board meeting crying. I'm not crying because we were taking our AP teacher away, because we're so inefficient in our ability to marshal resources in our neighborhood high schools. And that's where people like me came from. That's the mission. That's the vision. And I will, if it requires me not coming back, I would do it 30,000 times, because we have solutions for problems, and I'm willing to do that work.
Do you think council really would punish the school district by withholding funds?
I don't want to speak to what city council does. As you know, I'm not a politician. The Board of Education, we are appointed, and I think that's by design, so that we are the ones who are trying to make decisions as fiduciaries of our children and of the system and of the city.
It wasn't just council that opposed it. There were other folks in the meeting, individuals who work with our Philadelphia kids, and they opposed it. Was there some sort of disconnect between what you hear and what convinced you to vote in this way?
I speak for me, as now I'm going to take my board president hat off and be a board member. And just want to clarify my role as the board president. My job is to move the agenda forward, right? And obviously, right. So I think that's very important. As you could tell, board members had different perspectives, right? It's just to ensure that we can call the question. I've heard from many folks. I've heard from folks who are happy about the investments that are happening in their schools. I've heard from folks who are happy that we're even attempting to do what people think is a fool's errand, supporting neighborhood high schools. This has been a very long process. I'm also remembering what I heard from some of the same people in the room and saying, wait a minute, the plan actually did that thing you told me you wanted a couple years ago or a couple weeks ago. So I get it. I understand it's a very tense situation, but I've heard, you got to remember, board members don't just hear in the board meetings. I'm in the supermarket. I'm in Winfield now, so people talk, right? Yeah, hey, for our board president, I like this, I don't like this. Like,
absolutely. You hear a lot of criticism, is what you're saying. And that criticism...
Not all criticism, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've heard some support for it.
You do hear support?
Yes. I think they're quiet supporters. I think, just being pragmatic and logical about it, I think that when there's a tough conversation, it's hard to be overtly supportive of something that is so wound up like an onion that it's hard to disassociate the pain of the closures and things like that.
Right.
But also, I've heard positive things from Harrisburg, to be quite honest. I've heard, positive things from our mayor. I even heard positive things from the council members themselves in their meetings about 85% of the plan I like, blah, blah, blah. So I've heard positive things as well, but I haven't heard anything as a material fact that will say, you know what, this whole thing needs to stop, right? I haven't heard anything that disputes the $300 million deficit, the $7 billion of deferred maintenance, chronic underachievement, and how we could better utilize our resources to give the babies the educational experience you and I had that can allow us to be successful, which is why we exist.
As of today, though, the plan is to close 17 schools.
Yes, and I think I don't want to be Pollyannish about that. I think
Okay.
saying anything otherwise will be disruptive, and I think it would be discombobulating for the village. Yes, that is the plan right now. Understanding there's still actual public processes that have to go through. The schools are not technically closed today.
Right. And this will begin to roll out in 2027.
Yes, processes. The planning year is very important though for this process.
Families are also concerned with their students going to a new school and therefore going into different neighborhoods and the transportation burdens that might come with that. How is the district addressing that?
Again, I think the district has done some pre-thinking on, the safety piece and transitions in schools. It's my understanding that Dr. Watlington, again, I know this planning year thing is really killing people, but there's two approaches that the superintendent could have taken. He could have showed up with a fully baked plan, and then we have a problem with, y'all already knew what y'all was going to do. You didn't come to us, blah blah blah. But the planning year is really designed, as it's been communicated to me, as it is in the facilities plan, to be that place where the village can co-create those issues. But I do know that there have been, preliminary conversations with Chief Bethel, and other stakeholders as well. I'm not assuming. I know that our city will be partners, our city council will be partners in that work. But I get it. The transition is going to be tough.
What's the plan for these soon to be empty buildings? I think that's also top of mind for folks.
Yeah, I think that they're set out in the facilities plan. So, for example, one of the concerns that uh, families used to raise at action meetings were that the Clayton Center, which used to be called 440, was too far away. So I believe some of the facilities will be repurposed so that there could be satellite offices in the village, out in the village. So you don't have to come down to 440 North Broad Street to gain access to a person to help you with your issues, right? So that's an example of one. I think there might be a few that's being repurposed for community benefits purposes, things like that. But I know that this board has a commitment not to leave the ones that will not be repurposed for district benefit or purpose empty in perpetuity. I know that.
Board President, it cannot be easy to get yelled at in a public way by elected officials and face upset parents and see students crying who are seeing their school closed. How have you been dealing with that?
Um, Therapy, I think. I'm gonna keep it real, especially as a black man. One of the things that I was able to hold on to closely during the pandemic was therapy, right? And I think therapy works. Having a strong village at home works. And I think for me, being a father, understanding that um, some decisions have to be made that hurt, but or if intended to do to benefit those who need benefiting, it matters. But also, I think for me, the way I've dealt with it is, um, as the board president, and I'm a volunteer. If I lose my cool, if I lose it, if I don't stay focused on the mission, which is to educate children our why, and understand that some of those decisions won't be popular, it's going to impact the rest of the board. It's going to impact Dr. Watlington. I think it's going to impact students because my job is to keep the agenda moving forward. That's it. But therapy probably is the main piece that keeps me sane, and then waking up and seeing my children every morning.
Board President Reginald Streater, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you so much.
Later in the week, we expect to talk with Councilmember Isaiah Thomas, chair of the Education Committee. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know how you're feeling about the plan. Also, share this episode with someone you know. Rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.